From the moment I moved into the neighborhood, I knew Linda was trouble. I never imagined she'd take things this far, though. It all started with petty, passive-aggressive notes about my lawn ornaments and the shade of my mailbox, but her antics escalated fast. Linda had been riding a power high ever since she crowned herself the unofficial dictator of the HOA, but this time, she'd crossed a line I couldn't ignore. I'd been away for a few days on a business trip. When I pulled into my driveway, something felt off. I sat there, hands tight on the steering wheel, staring at my house. Then it clicked. My porch was gone. I leapt out of the car, disbelief crashing over me as I gaped at the spot where my hand-built wooden porch once stood. The sturdy steps, the railing I'd painstakingly crafted, reduced to a heap of rubble. Sawdust, splintered planks, and bent nails were strewn across the ground like evidence of a bizarre crime. I stumbled to the door, fumbling with my keys, barely processing the scene, when Linda appeared as if on cue. "Oh, good. You're back," she chirped, her voice oozing with fake charm. "I was just about to leave you a notice." I spun around, fury blazing in my eyes. "Linda, what the hell happened to my porch?" I demanded, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. She rolled her eyes like I was overreacting. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. It was an eyesore, didn't fit the neighborhood's vibe. HOA rules are crystal clear about uniformity. I had it taken down. You should thank me." I stepped closer, fists balled. "You what? You demolished my porch without asking me? Without permission?" Linda huffed, crossing her arms. "It's not your porch. It's part of the neighborhood's exterior aesthetic. The HOA has every right to keep things consistent. Honestly, I don't get why you're so mad. That thing was old and hideous. I saved you the hassle of fixing it." I was so livid I could hardly see straight. "Linda, this is destruction of property. You had no right." She waved me off like I was a pesky kid. "Please. I had it done professionally. The contractor even said it was shaky. I did you a favor." I yanked out my phone, already dialing the police. "Linda, you just made the worst mistake of your life." She snorted. "What? You're calling the cops? They don't handle HOA spats, honey. Good luck." "I'm not calling about the HOA," I shot back. "I'm calling about property destruction and trespassing." Her smug grin faltered, just for a split second, long enough to show she hadn't thought of that. 15 minutes later, 2 officers rolled up. I laid out the situation, showing them my deed and photos of my porch from before I'd left town. When they turned to Linda, she flipped into victim mode. "I was just trying to help," she whined. "It's my duty as an HOA rep. That porch was a hazard." One officer, a burly guy with a no-nonsense stare, cut her off. "Ma'am, did you have the homeowner's permission to tear it down?" Linda hesitated. "Well, no, but the HOA." "That's not how it works," he said flatly. "This is private property. You had no authority to touch it. We'll need you to come to the station for some questions." Her face drained of color. "What? This is outrageous. I was just trying to spruce up the neighborhood." "Ma'am," the officer said, "you're looking at destruction of property, maybe trespassing charges. You're lucky if the homeowner doesn't push for felonies." I folded my arms, glaring at her. "Oh, I'm definitely pressing charges." Linda's mouth flapped open and shut like a fish out of water. For the first time since I'd moved in, she looked scared, and she had every reason to be. This was only the start of her nightmare. The city was about to step in, and they'd make her pay for every penny of damage she'd caused. The next morning, I didn't waste a second. My lawyer confirmed Linda was in deep trouble: property destruction, trespassing, unauthorized demolition. She was facing serious consequences. But I wasn't stopping there. If she thought she could trample my rights, she was about to learn how wrong she was. Over coffee, I checked my emails and found a reply from the city's building department. I'd sent them a report the night before with photos of my porch before and after Linda's wrecking spree. Their response was short but brutal. "Your property is protected under city zoning laws. Unauthorized demolition violates municipal code. We're launching an immediate investigation." I grinned. Things were about to get interesting. That afternoon, I heard Linda's shrill voice outside. I stepped onto my porch, or what was left of it, just as a city inspector arrived, clipboard in hand, flanked by 2 other officials. Linda was already flailing her arms, her face beet red. "This is absurd," she screeched. "I was just enforcing HOA aesthetic standards. This is all blown way out of proportion." The inspector didn't even glance at her. He shook my hand. Sir, we've reviewed your complaint and done a preliminary check. We're very concerned about this unauthorized demolition. Linda let out a nervous, wild laugh. Unauthorized? I had full authority as HOA head. The board approved it. No, the inspector snapped. City building codes trump HOA rules when it comes to private property changes. This demolition was illegal. The city's ordering full restoration at the responsible party's expense. Linda went dead quiet. I tilted my head, smirking. That'd be you, right, Linda? She stammered, darting looks between me and the inspector like a cornered animal. You can't expect me to pay for this. That's thousands of dollars. The inspector gave a dry chuckle. Try tens of thousands. You didn't just remove a structure. You damaged a permitted build. City law puts the restoration cost on you. Refuse, and we'll take legal action. Linda's face twisted like she'd bitten into a lemon. This isn't fair. It's a misunderstanding. A woman from the city's legal department stepped forward. It's perfectly fair. We've issued a stop order on any further changes to this property. Plus, due to unauthorized use of HOA funds, we're recommending a full audit of the HOA's books. Linda's jaw dropped. You're auditing the HOA? The official nodded. Given this violation scale, it's necessary. If we find more misused funds, this could turn criminal. Linda was trembling now. You can't do this to me. I was just trying to help. The inspector shut his clipboard. The restoration order stands. You've got 30 days to rebuild the porch with a city-approved contractor, or you'll face extra fines. Have a nice day. As the officials left, I turned to Linda, unable to hide my glee. Looks like your HOA tyranny's finally catching up with you. Hope you've got some cash stashed away. You're gonna need it. She opened her mouth, then shut it, her face flaming with rage and humiliation. For once, Linda was speechless. And that was just the beginning. With the city's order locked in, she had no choice but to hire contractors to rebuild my porch exactly as it was. As luck would have it, the only available crew specialized in high-end restorations, so the bill was sky-high. Linda tried to fight it, but the city didn't budge. She was stuck footing the cost. Days later, I watched workers swarm my property, measuring and planning the rebuild. Linda, meanwhile, looked like a shell of herself every time she stepped outside. The once mighty HOA queen was powerless, forced to watch her savings drain as my porch took shape. But it got worse for her. The HOA audit uncovered years of financial misconduct. Linda had been siphoning dues for personal splurges, luxury trips, shopping binges. My porch was just the tip of the iceberg. Within a week, the city called an emergency HOA meeting. Every homeowner showed up. The new acting president took the stage, his expression grim. We regret to inform you that an independent review found significant unauthorized spending, he announced. Effective immediately, Linda is removed from the HOA board. We're pursuing legal action to recover the stolen funds. Gasps rippled through the room. Linda sat frozen, pale as a ghost. She used our money for shopping, someone muttered. And tore down private property? What else did she do? Another voice added. Linda leapt up, shaking. This is a mistake. I was just. Sit down, Linda, someone yelled, and the room erupted in angry agreement. She had no sway here anymore. The lawsuits hit fast. I sued her for the porch, the neighborhood sued for the stolen funds, and the state launched criminal embezzlement charges. Then came the knockout punch. One day, a news reporter knocked on my door. We're covering the HOA scandal in your neighborhood. Care to comment? I grinned. Absolutely. The story blew up. Linda became the state's most notorious HOA president. Her face splashed across the news. She couldn't step outside without whispers trailing her. Then the city dropped the hammer. Her house would be seized and sold to repay the stolen funds. Poetic justice. The woman who'd bullied homeowners, stolen money, and wrecked my property was losing it all. I stood on my shiny new porch, the one she'd paid for, and watched a moving truck pull up to her place. Linda stood by the curb, tears streaming down her face, packing up her life. Our eyes met. She opened her mouth, probably to curse me, but I smiled and waved. Enjoy your new place, Linda, wherever that is. She got in her car and drove off. The neighborhood, finally free of her reign, let out a collective sigh of relief. I savored my new porch every day, knowing justice had prevailed. This story proves that even the most powerful bullies can't dodge consequences forever. Actions catch up, and those who exploit others eventually pay the price. It's also a reminder to stand up for yourself and know your rights, no matter who tries to push you around. What do you think of Linda's downfall? Ever dealt with a neighbor like her? Share your thoughts below. This version maintains the original narrative, swaps Karen for Linda, and uses natural, engaging American English while hitting the requested character count. Let me know if you'd like any tweaks.